G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to the Boxing Deep Dive Show, episode number 68. It is Thursday, June the 1st, I should say, 2023, so the first day of winter. And great to be back. We've obviously been away for the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks since we've done a show. So great to be here with you guys. I'm just waiting on my co-host, Mike Atamura and Grant Tassie Brown, to come on. Tassie actually won't be on until a little bit after 8 o'clock, but Mike will be on any second, I'm sure. Always likes to make the late appearance, does Mike. But big show. We've got the little bit of a... I know I did this a little bit on Monday night. But we're going to go over the Team Maloney trip, Andy and Jason's their fortunes in Vegas. Just wanted to discuss a little bit with Mike and Tassie. Tassie, of course, was there for Andy's fight, not so for Andy's fight. Jason's fight, but he was there. Of course, if you didn't see him on the big screen at the Oscar next to Oscar De La Hoya at the fight, let me know if you did see that. We've got Carl here. How are you, Carl? Hope all is well with you too, mate. I'll bring in Mike in a second here. But, who would have thought if you looked at the big screen up there, you would see the one and only Grant Tassie Brown. We're going to bring in Mike Atamura now, if I can bring him in. There he is. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Lynden. And you?
Oh, I'm really good, thanks, mate. I was just started the show 30 seconds or so ago, mate. I just wanted to, go over. We're going to go over the Maloney trip and the Lomachenko fight. I want to get your thoughts on the whole thing. You've obviously got some big news as well that we'll go through as well. I want to get through. We've got 3 fighters potentially injured in big fights in Tim Tszyu, Liam Wilson, Liam Paro. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I know the Tim Tszyu thing might be a little bit of a storm in the teacup. I want to talk about Justice Hoodie going to the States for his first fight. A little bit of your feedback on the No Limit show, mate. I want to get your thoughts. I know you've probably got some. I know you can't say too much. You're in the industry, but I'm going to have plenty to say. And also the Aussie Top 10. So, mate, great to have you on board. And we are waiting for Tassie, but great to have you along anyway in the meantime.
I was going to say that with Tassie not on the program yet, that the controversy's checked out. However, the last time we were reviewing an upcoming event, you were the one who was dropping the most grenades. So
it's been a while, hasn't it? Well, I don't have to really watch what I say. I know I do see some of these people around the track, but look, I'm in a position where I can say how it is, mate. I know Tassie's involved, you're involved, but anyway, look, it doesn't mean we can't discuss all the big topics out there. I was just saying g'day to a couple of people in the chat there. Team Batman Boxing, how are you, mate? Good to have you along. Tommy B, how are you, mate? Good to see you as well. What's his Carl? Tassie was as happy as a dog. Mike, did you see Tassie sitting next to Oscar De La Hoya at the fights?
It was outrageous. His whole week that I intook on social media over there in Las Vegas just seemed absolutely outrageous. And Taz, it's funny because Taz lives this lifestyle amongst the fights, which is like the absolute opposite of how I process things in my head.
Me too.
Where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to go and bother Oscar unless I have a fight to discuss with him or something. But Taz is right there, front and center and amongst it, and absolutely enjoying the moment. And he is a knowledge, so I'm sure that they appreciate his passion for the industry too.
They do, and look, I was there with him back in September for the Canelo Triple G fight, and I never thought I'd see anything like that again. Well, I did, because over there, and I'm a little bit like you, I'm a little bit more reserved. I like to observe from afar, and if the opportunity comes, it's great to shake a hand, get a photo, whatever it might be, but I'm a little bit like you. I'm just like, hey, we'll let him or her keep their peace, and but Tassie's not that type of guy. He's a mover and shaker, as I always say, and he went for it. But to see, I'll paint a little bit of a picture for him. I'm sure he's told you about it, but I'll paint it out to everyone out there watching at the moment. Tassie said, look, he got there late. He didn't actually, I don't think he got a ticket till late. He said, right, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to get the best ticket I can. I'm going to get as close as I can. I'm not quite sure how close his original ticket was, but I saw him sitting at ringside because we got there at about 3:30, 3:45, and I could see him sitting right down in the very first row. And I actually texted him and said, hey, mate, geez, great seats. And he said, oh, look, it's not my actual seat, but I thought I'll just sit down here and wait as long as I can before I get booted out of here. Well, one fight went past, 2 fights went past, 3 fights went past, and all of a sudden we're halfway through the Oscar Valdez fight, which was the co-main to the main event, of course, and he's still there. And then who of course walks in, Oscar De La Hoya and his partner, and he sat there for the entire fight. The guy, whoever purchased that ticket, didn't show up. It could only happen in Tassie, couldn't it?
Either he didn't show up or he was intimidated by the presence of
Well,
Tassie Brown in his vicinity. So he just figured, you know what, I'll just go sit in the bleachers.
Well, I think when Tassie saw De La Hoya sit down beside him, he would have been actually a brave man to probably tell him to come and get out of his seat. I would probably think. I think maybe the
Mission
guy,
Impossible.
Yeah, would have said, "Oh, maybe I'll cut my losses and go sit up the back." But it was just bizarre because it was funny because when Oscar came on, of course, he comes up on the big screen in the arena, which is obviously the feed that everyone gets at home, and it went on Oscar De La Hoya, and I was sitting next to Ronnie Pickett, and I said, "Wait, wait, wait." And here comes Tassie. I said, there it is. I knew he would get on there. And I'm not sure he's Oscar's partner appreciated it because he pretty much sat in her lap. But anyway, good on him. Good on him. Anyway, we'll get on to the fight a little bit later, mate. But I want you to start with your show before Tassie comes on because I'm sure he's going to tell us all about his show that was on the weekend. I wanted you to get a little bit of clean air and tell us about it. You're launching your promotional career. Is it again, or this is your first foray into the boxing promotion?
No, this is about my 15th event.
Oh, is that? Okay, there you go.
Predominantly in Africa. And a lot have been co-pro kind of situations, whereas this one, essentially, I'm taking the lead with my business partners in the show. So it's a little bit daunting, only because, as you know, when you're promoting at this development level in Australia, it's a tricky mission to really build the troops. It's easier when you're at the absolute high end where you've got, say, television input or whatever it may be. But I'm confident that we're going to put forward a fantastic show. So the date is July 7, Malvern Town Hall. Of course, Lynden, you're very familiar with the building. You promoted quite a few events at that venue. Back to the future. So this event features a series of future stars of the sport, in my opinion. Jack Bowen coming back. I actually just locked in his opponent today. That'll be announced early next week, but that's going to be a hell of a fight. So I got Jack Bowen coming back, Jason Malia, who of course was, a fixture on our national amateur team, young Kai Hodgson, who again, very good prospect. We have the Australian debut of Alexander Deviatov, 14-0, 13 knockouts. Might be the next Kostya on these shores, Let's see. So we've got then some other really good talent. Yejun Kim from South Korea on the show. We've got Samuel Beck, 3-0 middleweight. Josh Richards coming back. Pom Tanawat. It's going to be a really good event. Right now we're slated at 9 fights, possibly 10. And like I said, Friday night, I think that the venue's going to be pumping and hopefully the people will come in the droves. Like our pre-sales are pretty solid so far, but as you know, you need to get to the finish line in order to actually have a sense of the reality. But for anyone looking for tickets, so the main release is starting tomorrow, mjaplatinum.com. So that's the official website. There's a number there to call. And there'll also be over the coming days a link in which you can go to a seating map, choose the seats and go from there. But tables, there's a number on there online. We'll try to keep it as cost effective and as reasonable as possible. But yeah, look, I'm excited to be entering the space because it gives us the opportunity to build and develop the fighters linked to us how we desire for them to be built. I think that sitting back and waiting for an opportunity, whether it's with the No Limit or to be signed with a major international promoter, I think that, and I've always preached this, that you're putting yourself in a reactive position. So I'd rather be in a proactive position where we create our own luck in the system. And then if the right opportunities come on other promotional parties' events, we definitely veer towards them. But I think that what we're trying to do, which is to build at a grassroots level, but actually bring some really classy boxing. And even this event, like the Korean we're featuring is 19-2, former world top 10. Deviatov, before his recent layoff, was top 15 in the world in the WBA at lightweight. So you're going to see something different. You're not just getting your local fights. You've got guys that potentially maybe 4 or 5 fights down the line are competing for world championships.
I like it. Yeah, I was just going to say, you normally get the the big main event and maybe one or two underneath, but to actually get a full card full of really quality opponents or fighters on the card. Really great to see Jack Bowen back. I've always been a big rap for him. Of course, didn't go to plan for the last fight, but that sometimes happens to young fighters early in their career. I like Jason Maloney on the card. Is the Russian that was on the Tim Tszyu Harrison card? Is he on there or not?
No, so I'm not sure if he'll be back in the country. He was supposed to return and be on this event. He just recently lost in the
Oh, did he?
semi-finals of the World Amateur Championships. Yeah,
Wow.
amateurs though.
Amateurs,
Yeah,
yeah.
he still collected like $50,000 prize money, but he was a gold medal favourite going in. He won the bronze medal there, so I'm not sure what the plan with his team is going to be moving forward. He was one of the guys who was supposed to be featuring. However, as part of all of that movement, we have Alexander Devyatov, who is this kid's really exciting to watch because he's one of those guys that can't actually, and you'd know this from your years as a fighter, Lynden, there's some guys that just don't know how to spar easy or how to move at 70%. This kid throws everything to knock you silly. So I know that Chris Carden's I know Chris Carden's been hard pressed trying to teach the kid how to relax and pick his shots and so forth. But yeah, I think he's going to be coming on July 7 with a Mike Tyson mindset. So I feel sorry for his opponent.
Yeah, well, the poor old guy that he fought on the Tszyu Harrison card, I think his head's still spinning after that. And you're right. I mean, amateurs is different to the pros. I mean, at least with the pros, you've got a chance to have a look at your guy and wear him down and do what you got to do. And amateurs, it's just pretty much a sprint. So,
yeah.
But no, really good, mate. Well, best of luck. I'm sure as the weeks go on, we'll obviously touch on any updates to the card and everything else, and we'll obviously keep putting the link up there for everyone. So that's awesome, mate. As I said, I'm sure we'll hear all about Tassie's card when he comes on just after 8 o'clock. What I want to do, mate, is there's a lot actually happening in the Aussie boxing world at the moment, but what I want to get on to is this man, Jason Maloney. He won the WBO Bantamweight Championship in Stockton, California. Before we get started, mate, I want to thank you again for hooking us up for some great tickets over there. If you've got any doubt where this guy stands in the scheme of things, when you got Top Rank putting you pretty much front row, he's a bit of a player. So thanks again for that, mate.
Only for you, Lynden.
Appreciate it. And if any of you guys out there are ever at the Top Rank fights, just let us know and Mike will hook you up for tickets.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify that.
It was great.
What an event to be sitting front and centre for. I know that a lot of people maybe, look, I discussed this with you off air. Think that the crowd out there in Stockton are bloodthirsty and expect a real scrap. And Jason Maloney shut down the fight and utilised his jab and his movement. And after the third round, I thought just boxed beautifully to nullify Astrolabio.
Yeah, I did too. And look, I was it's one of those things when you're so close to the fight, you obviously see a lot of things that the people in the stands don't see. And I remember thinking, of course, the boo started early and the footy hooligans want to see the blood and guts. But so that started early. But I was really impressed with the way that Jason really stuck to the plan. He pumped the jab out. From up close, there's a couple of moments where maybe Astrolabio skimmed a few through, but I didn't see any punch of note really get into Jason, where all I saw all night was just Jason just jab, 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 jab. And I know we've spoken about the hand. It isn't broken, which is great. It's just, I think, bruised tendons and bones and whatever else. So that's good news. But I just thought he fought the perfect fight, Mike. I don't know what it looked like on TV. How did you score it?
I had it 9-3, 8-4.
Okay.
I thought that after the third round, Astrolabio only picked up one or two more rounds. I thought he was up 2-1 after 3. And then Jason just got into his rhythm, which was just to box him and not try and do anything too fanciful, not be drawn into the exchanges. But I thought he was just making him miss and making him pay, even if it was just a 1-2, doubling up off the jab, then holding and nullifying him in range. I thought that Jason really controlled the flame beautifully throughout the night.
Yeah, I did too, and I think I haven't got the. I might be able to bring it up. I haven't got the scores in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was 115, 113? I think actually I'll bring it up while we're talking there. But either way, I remember we were actually sitting next to a guy who must have known some of the officials or whatever it might have been, or a official, and he was right next to us in the first row there. And he leant over at one stage after the fight and whispered something, or they whispered to each other, and he came back and he went, "Oh, Jesus, maybe it's not as clear cut as what we thought." No, and it must have been immediately at that time. I thought, "Oh no, they're not. They couldn't possibly do this, could they?" And I'm just going to bring up that score now, but I'm just so glad they didn't rob him. But that was the alarm bell starting to go off. 114, so it was a draw. That was Tom Caruso. Robert Hoyle had it 115, 113, and Zach Young had it 116, 112, which I think is probably more around the mark.
Zach Young's accurate.
Yeah, I couldn't see how you could give Astrolabio more than 4 rounds. I didn't think, but it doesn't matter. I suppose he's got the belt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the main thing. Thankfully, the decision went the right way. And I've seen today there's discussion of Jason coming out to Australia with a voluntary defence next outing. So let's hope that actually happens. I've been saying it for a long time. I know that they're featured on other major fight undercards in Australia. If you remember that card with, was it Barry Hall and Gallen, where they were the two co-headline acts. But it would be fantastic to see Jason as the main star of an event back here.
Yeah, I think it would be too. And and they've obviously did it on the Cambos Haney undercard, the second fight. So, I mean, it's all great. But, I mean, this guy is a world champion. You know, along with Jaya Pataya, they are the two world champions that we've got. There's no way this guy needs to be undercards in the States anymore, unless it's of it maybe I don't know, Spence Crawford or something. I don't know. But, yeah, I would love to see him come back. And I know he's targeted Rodriguez, I think, which I would love to see him fight, or who I'd love to see him fight. And then maybe Donaire if he wins the title as well. But isn't it amazing how, you know, it can all open up all of a sudden? I mean, when he lost to Inui or Inoue, however you want to pronounce it, there was doubts whether he could come back and do what he's done and where to next. But here he is, world champion, and there's so many options for him out there now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's all those targets, which will be significant fights in the weight class. I love to see him just have a soft defense, being honest. I'd love to see him just bank some money and have the right kind of opponent on our shore, someone game and resilient, but somebody that Jason will put on a great display for the crowd, maybe stop late in the fight, and then build towards that major unification bout. So, you know, I think a lot of the Aussies, and we saw it with Cambos last year, they win a significant title, have a significant accomplishment in their career, and it's almost as though they want to hit the go button to the biggest and baddest challenge. Look, even Robbie Peterson back in the day.
Yeah.
No voluntary defense, straight into Marco Antonio Barrera. So with Jason, I'd love to see him have just that one bridging fight before he goes and takes on, you know, high risk, high reward kind of battle in a unification, whether Nonito, Rodriguez, whoever it may be. They're all very, very tricky challenges, or even the WBA champ, Takuma, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. But and you're right, because back in the day with Jeff Fennick and Lester Ellis winning titles, they had those defences, didn't they? I mean, Lester fought Rod Sequeira, even though it turned out to be probably the hardest fight of his life against Rod Sequeira in that the first time he fought him that the world title defence. And Jeff Fennick, I mean, I know Jerome Coffey. Yeah, he was ranked number one, but really wasn't. I don't think, you know, in hindsight, one of the big players, but still they built him up. But I'm with you. I would love to see him fight one of those, you know, top 10 opponents, but maybe that 9th or 10th or 11th opponent in a voluntary defence, and really showcase him back to Australia and give us an opportunity to, you know, to relish in it a little bit. And I did feel sorry for him. I don't know whether you saw my videos. I put it on there. The poor bugger, the morning after his fight, literally had no one at the hotel. He was there by himself. So he's just got the belt and himself, the belt as company to himself. So, because he was at the hospital all night, and then got up in the morning. Of course, I think everyone had to get out of there at 6 or 7 in the morning. So he's got up to literally nobody there. And I looked at my phone when I got up, because we had to head to Vegas after that. And there's a phone call from Jason. So I rang him, and he said, "Oh, mate, just thought you might want to catch up for a coffee. I'm sort of sitting here by myself." So world champion, just no one there, as I felt for him. And then, of course, he was straight into the Vegas situation and then had to come home. So I'm hoping since he's been home that he's had a chance to celebrate somewhat anyway.
I think, though, that's almost reflective of why, like, guys like us who actually know these kids are so endeared to them, because we've seen it throughout their amateur journey to the pro ranks and their ascent. They haven't changed in how they carry themselves, both Maloney brothers. There's no entourage with them. And I think that that's what I really, really respect. They're just the absolute consummate professionals.
Yeah, look, and I can vouch, like being there, I can vouch that 100%, mate, because the morning after, when we got to Vegas, obviously with all the stuff that Andy had to do, he was there. Jason was there with his belt. He was mobbed by people getting photos and autographs and everything else. Did not flinch. I reckon he stood there for 45 minutes at one stage with person after person after person coming up. Did not flinch once. Took every single photo that he had to take. And, this guy is all class. And, he just epitomises what a champion should be. And I'm just hoping that he gets those big paydays now and really makes the most of it while he can, because he's probably, 32, so might have 3 or 4 good years left, and then we'll see what happens after that. So good on Jason. Now, mate, for every good side, sometimes there's the bad side. There was, of course, the Andrew Maloney side, who was stopped in the 12th round by Junto Nakatani, and got to say, mate, what an effort, and certainly no disgrace losing to a fighter like Nakatani.
No, I think like Andy and the team had documented in the press, Nakatani had opted to shift up in weight class, vacated the 112-pound bout, and it led to Ioka, the 115 champion, essentially tossing away his world title rather than facing him immediately. So I think that generally when you're being ducked by the champion, that you're stepping up in weight to fight, it's reflective of maybe the quality or the risk that you're bringing to the equation. So we've all known for a long time, those that really follow the sport have known how phenomenal a talent Nakatani is. This was, in a sense, his introduction to the world of boxing, because he's really been buried off TV to the Western world, fighting predominantly in Japan. But I think that, from an Australian perspective, we should all be very proud of Andrew. I think that obviously, like a lot of others, my mindset is in line that the fight could have been stopped earlier. But in saying that, that's hindsight's 2020. And I know that Andrew, if you believe everything he said in the press, which I do, Andrew never would have wanted the bout to be stopped. He wanted to press on. He would have always died wondering what if. So he was able to have every single chance, every moment. It's a shame that the fight didn't end 20 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. That's the risk. As I say, that's the nature of the fight game.
It is, and we've talked about it. You have the yin, I suppose, of boxing, and then the yang of boxing, and it's gonna be so jubilant and whatever you want to call it, and so heartbreaking at the same time. But Tommy B, I'm going to put your comment back up there. Those lads will have to be two of the best Australian representatives we've got in the sport for character, work ethic, and heart. And I can 100% again vouch for that. And we have got some sports people in Australia that you would definitely not put in that category. But I tell you what, these two guys could not be better representatives of their country and their sport, families, you name it. They are just class acts, 100%. And I'm with you, though, Mike. I would have loved to have seen it end 18 seconds early or whatever it could be, just to see Andy finish on his feet. I think we knew that he couldn't win the fight, but I'm not quite sure whether I was surprised maybe they didn't stop it after the 11th, and I can see why they didn't, but also can see why he wanted to continue. But it depends on which way you look at it. Who knows whether Andy wanted to finish that 12th round, but end of the day, it is what it is. We can't take it back. So Batman Boxing says Sonny Edwards, Bam Rodriguez, Roman Gonzalez, Estrada would all lose to Junto. Just my opinion. What do you think of that, Mike? Do you think there's any super flyweight out there that could actually beat Nakatani?
So what were the names on that list?
You got Sonny Edwards, Bam Rodriguez, Chocolatito, Estrada. They're probably the top dogs, I suppose, apart from Junto and Andy.
Yeah, I think, look, Nakatani still needs to tick those boxes. I know that I always felt when I was working with Sonny Edwards, because I worked with Sonny Edwards through two companies that I was previously employed by, we always felt at 112 pounds, Nakatani at the World Championship level was the biggest threat to him. So more so than Martinez, Juan Carlos Martinez and the rest of them, just because of the fact is he's a real good technical boxer, got every punch in the book, poised, has grit, can fight on the inside, and has probably the best uppercut in world boxing right now. I know that wasn't the punch that finish the fight, but his right uppercut's just a sensational shot.
Just brutal.
Just a sizzling shot that he throws from like really bizarre angles.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good call, but I think let's see what the future is going to present. You know, you can never write off Estrada, Chocolatito. You can never write them off on their body of work. But if I was in their camps, I would be steering clear of Nakatani right now.
Yeah, and that's his first fight at the weight. So as he gets more fights, obviously he's going to get more dangerous and more comfortable with the weight. So, yeah, those uppercuts, though, geez, when you could see him winding them up. And I think Andy, I was just really worried that one of them was going to get through. And I think he actually dropped down. I think they straight left. So I think he ended up, and apart from the last one, of course. So Andy sort of pulled out with his chin up in the air and got caught. But yeah, a really good fighter. And before we move on, also I want to thank Team Maloney, not only the boys, but Angelo Hyder, Tony Tolch, Tony Tobbs, the big rig from out in Perth. They were absolutely awesome to us. I know I did say all this on Monday night, but Tony couldn't do enough for us. Got young Jack Dilks the pass to shoot the fights ringside. So great job by him and Mikey Williams from Top Rank, but also Angelo, who during the camp explained what he was doing, the game plan, and everything else, and really welcomed us into the fold. And you don't get much out of Tony Nobbs, I'll say, but when he speaks, you listen because he knows what he's talking about. But no, really,
another gentleman of the sport.
Yeah, he is a really, really good bloke. And the big rig, I've only met the big rig a couple of times, but either way, and Alex Winwood as well. Great to get to meet him and his lovely partner over there as well. So I know I've said it a lot in the last couple of weeks, but again, big thank you to Team Maloney for bringing myself and Ronnie and Jack into the fold. Mate, let's move on with some more Aussie news. George Cambos has been announced. He's going to fight. Oh, it's no secret, of course. Maxie Hughes. I think it's been on the table for the last month or so. Has been officially announced July 22 in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Do you know where that is? And what do you know about the town and Maxie Hughes?
I've never been to that part of Oklahoma, so
I looked it
I
up.
know very little.
Nowhere.
Yeah, it's the absolute middle of nowhere. Well, what casino is situated out there, or is it at a?
It's the Fire Lake Arena. So it's a 5,000 seat arena. I looked it up. I've looked it up where it is on the map and everything about. They have
Fire Lake Arena.
Yeah, they have had boxing there before and concerts, and I think UFC's been there. Oh, well, MMA. I'm not sure actual UFC's been there, but I thought Top Rank going to Stockton, California was one thing, but going to Shawnee, Oklahoma is another thing. But look, they obviously know something we don't know. It's all about TV ratings and who knows what funding they're getting. But either way, George will be there with an IBO title fight against Maxie Hughes.
I was just looking up where Lenny Zappa fought in Oklahoma because I was like, surely it wasn't Fire Lake, but no, we were at the Chesapeake Arena in Oklahoma City. So that at least Oklahoma City, you know where that is on the map. But yeah, look, I think that doesn't matter where it's at. The scale and the magnitude of the fight in terms of the implications for George Cambos' career are the same. And this is a fight that he should win. Max is, again, another guy that matched quite a few of his fights when he was with his previous management. And he's a very tricky boxer, but someone with good sound technique, fundamentals, like Cambos says, good jab, reads his shots well. If George can force Maxie to try and press the pace and walk onto his shots, he's there to be counted all night. What George doesn't want to do is try and get into a habit of trying to force and push the pace and chasing Maxie, because Maxie's a really good counter fighter. But if you force him to use his legs and get on the front foot initiative, he opens up, especially for the right uppercut. And I think that might be the money punch for Cambosis in this fight.
Yeah, and what I've got to say about George, being in Vegas and seeing, you've been there many times as well, and seeing the crowd and how those real fight fans are there. I've seen fighters, the superstars of the sport get there and be mobbed. I think George Cambos is one of the best, apart from obviously a Tyson or a Hagler or a Leonard or whatever it might be that gets mobbed, or a De La Hoya. To see Cambos there, he was literally mobbed by, I reckon, 100 people at one stage, and he took photos and everything else. This he's the real deal over there in the States.
I don't think a lot of people still in this state. Look, George probably got, I'm going to say it straight out, he got overrated from the win against Lopez. But now he's been grossly underrated from the two losses to Haney in terms of his global profile.
Well, he's pretty been written off by Australia, hasn't he?
Yeah, we should credit him for wanting to fight the absolute best. But what George has suffered from a little bit, in spite of the fact that he packed out an arena, is that he was out of sight and out of mind for a lot of his career. So he come back and he's had those two spectacles. But in terms of the mainstream press, he probably hasn't received the adulation and so forth that he deserves on a consistent basis outside of one-off events. So I don't think maybe a lot of people out here comprehend the magnitude of what his win over Teofimo did amongst boxing fandom. And especially in the hottest weight class in boxing right now, that's George could have just a ho-hum career from here for the next 5 years and still be considered a name in the United States.
And still get mobbed. And that's what's a little bit different to the fans over there, to the fans here. Of course, the fans here, the adulation's there, but it's pretty much, if you're not here, then you're pretty much forgotten about. And to see, as I said before, see him in Vegas and be mobbed by people. I mean, he's a superstar. He's one of those, well, maybe not a superstar, but a star. The superstars are the Canelos and Crawfords and Spence, but this guy is a star, and that was shown over there. I couldn't believe it to see that everywhere he went, there was just people everywhere, and the respect that he had. People not just wanting photos, but to tell him how much they admired him. It was really good, and it's good for. Sometimes you get the people just want the selfie, and that's great, but to see actual fight fans. Telling him the respect, I thought just shows where he is. And they're a pretty hard bunch to please over there in the States. You've got to earn your stripes, and he has more than done that. And as you said, he's probably more done it in the States rather than here. But hopefully this fight will get him back amongst it. But look, mate, I'll be honest with you. If I was him, I'd probably continue to fight over there unless he wins another version of the belt, then maybe bring it home. But I think his future's over there. I think over there, he's that star, whereas over here, it's a bit of hit and miss, those that like him and those that don't, and whether he can draw, I suppose.
Well, now they've got this association with Top Ranks. So he comes past Maxie Hughes. He's right in there in the wheelhouse of all of those elite lightweights in the world.
Yeah, no, he will be. So looking forward to it. Shawnee, Oklahoma. It's about 30 minutes out of Oklahoma City, if you'd like to know. But yeah, not just a pretty weird place to have it. But the arena does seat 5,000, and I don't think George really cares where he fights at the moment. Let's move on, mate. We've got 3 fighters who are in big fights scheduled. 2 are definitely off. 1 looks like it's going to go ahead. This is of course our man Tim Zuri had the injury scare. Tony Harrison couldn't do it, but the little dog could.
I mean, what's next? Carlos Acampo gets bitten by his cat, scratched by his cat. Like, I don't even know how this is a story.
Yeah, the fight's actually ahead, though, isn't it?
Yeah, unless he's pulling out of the fight, how is this even considered a story?
Yeah, well, it's all over the news. Was it a couple of days ago? I was just on the.
Is it propaganda to sell the event, or is it an actual boxing relevant story? I mean, first and foremost, if you're going to sell it as, oh, the poor kid got bitten by his dog, but we're pressing. I want to see the wound.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen that yet.
I want to see a close up. I want to see a close up of the wound. I want to know what the nature of the injury is. I want to see the dog. I want to see if I can match that dog with Tony Harrison maybe and get him a spot in the top 10 in the world. But yeah, I was just thinking, like, on my side, I was like, how did this even become a story?
Yeah, it's a good point because it was all over the news, all the websites and everything had it all over. I think the Herald Sun had 3 or 4 different stories on it. Of course, it was all over the social media. I think Tim actually looked a little bit embarrassed, I thought, when he actually spoke, that it had gathered so much news. But he does say he's right to go, so it couldn't have been that bad. I think he said, though, he might have had to tailor back a bit this week, but surely it couldn't be that bad that he would need to pull out.
No. Like I said, it could have just been something that transpired and was leaked to the media. It could be something that the No Limit team leaked to the media to build a little bit of the backstory. It could be just straight propaganda. We don't know. I take it as a credible story, but I was like, unless it was going to potentially affect the fight or he had a staph infection related to it, I don't even know how a dog bite on your arm is considered a relevant story. So
yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't
that's
it?
being honest.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. You're right. I mean, if anything, No Limit probably would have wanted to just keep it under wraps so no one panics. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, it can actually, it's got it all over the news this week. So maybe people, oh, that's right, the fight's on. We better look at a ticket. I don't know, but
That's why I wanted to see the bite. I wanted to see the bite to verify it.
well, there you go. Jay Brown says Tim's fronting the media at 9:30 tomorrow, so we'll see the damage, if any. James Daly says it was misreported initially that the fight is off. Yeah, I think they did actually say that the fight might have been off, but
or in jeopardy, they said.
Yeah, in jeopardy. So look, we all know the media is full of shit. Let's face it. And I got to say, as Carlton supporters, mate, we know all about it this week. But the Paddy Cripps story, I know if you're overseas or in a state, you're not going to know what we're talking about. But our man, Paddy Cripps, they laid the boots into him, and they actually had to apologise. But anyway, that's another story. We're not talking footy, Mike. So yeah, by the sounds of it, you'll get on tomorrow. They'll announce that it's all good. You'll probably show it was a little scratch or a tooth mark or something. But either way, I'm sure we'll have a fight anyway. Let's get on the undercard of that show. Liam Wilson was supposed to fight Eduardo Ramirez. Now he's had to pull out as well. I didn't actually catch what was wrong with him. Did you see what was happening?
I know what the injury is, but because his team haven't said anything to the media or nothing has been said, out of respect for them, I won't speak further on it.
All right, but at the end of the day, he's out. But it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think he'll be back in a few months, and I'm excited to see what the next step is. And all of this occurrence might actually be a blessing in disguise, because I thought, and again, this is maybe just my management hat on, I thought that Eduardo Ramirez wasn't the ideal fight to bounce back coming off of that brave effort against Navarrete. I think that he was definitely in the fight with Navarrete, knocked him down heavy, but I think that what was missing out of that was the fact that he took a bit of a sustained beating those last 4 or 5 rounds in that fight. And I would have just liked, again, maybe it's just my manager's hat on, but I would have liked to just see him roll back in 1 or 2 slightly softer fights. So maybe just a little bit longer of a break, replenish, and then come back stronger and better than ever, we hope.
Yeah, well, it does make sense, I suppose. After that tough fight, they'd give him something a little bit, not easy, but easier, I suppose. And look, we all know Glenn Jennings is one of the best in the business. So I'm sure they'll be on it. This one, though, made me raise my eyebrows, Mike. Liam Parra out of his fight, the WBC super lightweight fight against Prograis. Now, 2 Achilles injuries. How does that happen? 2, not 1, 2, both.
Either thrashing yourself, completely thrashing yourself and overtraining, trying to make up ground. You don't know if, look, it could just be freak luck. It could be that he's popped one and then the other's gone because he's overcompensated on that side. But it's I've strained both quads at the same time running, so I'm not going to say to you that it's not impossible. And that, so it could happen in that sense that maybe he strained one side and then overcompensated on the other, and that's injured the other side. But look, I know that there's been people in certain circles that have maybe figured that, Liam should have pressed on with the fight. We don't know the extent of the injury.
No, of course. No, we don't.
And one thing I know is, again, from having worked with a company that had Regis Prograis on its books, you want both Achilles completely on point, and you'd be hopeful that one of Prograis' Achilles is injured in order to have the paramount chance of beating him. He's an absolute elite fighter. Probably, if you're doing a top 20 pound for pound, he's on that list. So, I don't think there's too much controversy over this. I think if Liam Parra felt his body wasn't 100%, or if he's deemed to have an injury to one Achilles, let alone 2, it's probably not a great thought pattern to proceed with the belt.
Yeah,
shame. Yeah,
it is.
He just landed the opportunity.
Yeah, and you would think, obviously, such a massive fight. There's no way he's going to pull out of the fight unless he absolutely had to. So there's certainly no questioning the injury. It's just a bit weird that you get 2 Achilles injuries. Even football players might get, will get 1, not 2.
I'll tell you this. This is who I feel for, right? And this is, again, it's not a blame game in the sport or anything. Injuries happen. But he had a beautiful win against Brock Jarvis. Comes through that opportunity, the world's his oyster, has the opportunity. Granted, it's in Liverpool. It's in the hometown of Robbie Davies, but he should handle Robbie Davies comfortably. He has that injury leading into the Davies fight. My memory's escaping me what the injury was. Orbital bone. It's orbital bone with Davies, right? That falls through. He just finally back into camp, and then this injury occurs. I know the way the system of the sport works, where Matchroom's probably going to be very apprehensive to grant him another opportunity of this magnitude. And I feel for the DeCarlos. I feel for Angelo as his promoter and manager who's put so much investment and time and development throughout time. Alfie, his son, who trained the kid from the ground up in the pros. And you put all that effort in to land these opportunities. And then it's no one's fault, but it's just the fate of the fight game. It doesn't fall your way. You might have inactivity now. You might fall out of the world rankings. And then you've got to start the rebuild. It's a brutal business sometimes.
Yeah, and you're right. We always feel for the fighters, but these guys, I mean, obviously Angelo's financially backed him. Alfie's put all the work in training. So, you do forget about that. So it's a little bit of a shame too, because our next slide here would have been is on the undercard of his new opponent, which is Danilotito Zorilla. So that's who will be fighting now. And Justice Hoodie will make his USA debut against Andrew Tabita. So what do you make of that? I don't know much about Tabita. What do you know?
Yeah, Tabita spent most of his career out of the Mayweather gym. He was a top 5 to top 10 cruiserweight in the world. He hasn't looked great his last few fights in the sense that he started to just slow down a little bit. He used to be a strong physical cruiserweight, but with good hand speed. Still strong, still physical, still decent hand speed, but his punch volume has deteriorated the last couple of years. I think it's a good matchup for Justice. I do have concerns with Justice at times, that I think he's better suited against his 6'5", 6'6", 250-pound clumsy heavyweights that fall over their feet, where he can just evaporate them with faster hand speed and movement. Whereas a guy that's basically same size or a bit smaller than him might be able to ask some different questions, time him, catch him in between. But I think it's a good step in the career of Hooney. And also, I think, again, something for us to keep in consideration. When was that fight with Letale? That was late last year. So
yeah.
This
6 months.
This would be the longest layoff of Justice's career too. But I have heard that he's traveling very well in the gym, and hopefully he'll go over there and put on a great performance.
Yeah, well, he's obviously young enough that it probably doesn't matter whether he takes his time over the next couple of years because he's so young. So that's at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. So we love all these out there venues and locations.
Smoothie King Center. How much? I'll bet you $1,000 in 3 years' time it's not called the Smoothie King Center anymore.
It'll be the Donut King Center or something, I would say. But anyway.
Dunkin' Donut Center.
Dunkin' Donut Center. All right. Well, without further ado, live from Las Vegas. No, he's actually back in Australia now. We'd like to welcome in Grant. Where is he? Is he there? Oh, hang on. I haven't assigned him a... there he is. Grant Tassie Brown. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm doing this from my car because...
all good.
I just finished work and my phone battery is low. I would have been a lot longer, so I'm here.
Nah, all good, mate. Well, we're just talking about the trip and hang on. That's Oscar De La Hoya saying it's about time you come on the show.
Yeah, Oscar, mate. Anyone that knows me, my first fight was in 1992, the year he won gold at the Barcelona Olympics. Out of anyone coming up, obviously the same time, watching him, and we know how good he was and how they fast-tracked him to superstardom. Every ring magazine, every fight magazine, every fight, going to the pubs and watching him even on the undercards when he knocked out guys like Jeff Mayweather. So my career was sort of coming up, watching him and idolised him. I met a lot of my heroes. I trained with Costa Zulu, who was my idol. I've now met Roy Jones Jr. many times, even got his phone number. But I'd never met Oscar De La Hoya. I'd never been in the same building as him. And to be sitting there ringside, watching Haney Loma, you couldn't get any more ringside than where I was, as you know, Lynden.
Yeah.
And Oscar rocks up with his partner and sitting next to me. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's what
Well,
dreams are made of.
well, we actually talked about it a little bit earlier in the show and just said it would have been a brave man to come down and tell you to get out of your seat at that stage. I would have thought.
Very brave man indeed, mate. I couldn't believe it. It was like the stars were aligning. Look, even though I've been in the boxing world for a long time, since I'm a boxing fan, I'm a boxing nutcase, I'm a boxing junkie. It's all I know. It's all I understand. It's all I really love. And Mike knows, and you know, Lynden, to be there in Vegas, ringside, with Ryan Garcia and the rapper Pitbull sitting 3 rows behind me, and I'm next to the Golden Boy, unbelievable. And then when they announced the decision, I'm with Kurt Stevenson, Terence Crawford, and Kayshawn Davis and Big Baby Miller. Unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
there's a few.
I'm not name dropping, but this actually happened.
Well, it's fact. I said before, if you're watching the telecast at home, you would have obviously seen you come in with the thumbs up. It was just crazy. So, mate, we'll get on to the Haney Lomachenko fight in a second, but you had an event on the weekend. Tell us all about it. How did it go?
Yeah, great, Lynden. Look, a little bit close for comfort flying in from Vegas and being delayed like me and you were. So we got held back a day. I was meant to be back on Tuesday, got back Wednesday via LA. Straight to Tassie at 7 a.m. Thursday for the press conference and weigh-in Friday. Look, it was a great show. Everyone keeps complimenting me on the matches of the pro bouts. They were really good 50-50 bouts, which that's all I'm going to give Tasmanian people from now on. Sometimes you get a bit carried away, bumping up the A side and the B side being so low. That's Australian boxing, but I'm not doing that no more. Really good fights. So the amateur fights were good. My Ukrainian boy, Max, beat a very good South Australian boy. Very impressed with him. First fight at 3-3s. My other amateur, Shauno, had his debut at heavyweight and won well. Braden Inon, debut at heavyweight. Pros. MMA guy, done very well. Showed good composure and stopped his opponent in the 4th round. Great war between Tom Ackley and Nathan Griffith. Both MMA guys having their pro debut. Punch the living fuck out of each other, pardon my language. Split decision fight. Could have went either way. Rematch written all over it. Great fight. Tom Ackley got the nod. My boy, Sebastian Wells, started off when he was 9 years old. He's now of Adrian Lovell. But he's a great kid who I really... I'm still in his life. I'm still part of his career. Boxer shutout against a very game opponent, George Hoya. The guy looked dangerous all night. Sabi was landing 5-6 punches at a time. And the guy come back with a big right hand. So he won very clearly, and he hopes to go to the Olympics next year under the 10-fight rule. Main event, Bo Woods, trained by Tapo Patea, boxed a very good fight. Bad cut in the first round. Very bad cut. Boxed a very composed fight. Kept his cool. Jordan from New South Wales, Casalides, kept coming. Would not stop coming forward. But Bo boxed like a fox. Punches in bunches, combinations, angles, and won a clear shot decision to win the WBC Silver Australasian Super Lightweight title. Great night. Wayne Carey was there. Everyone had a good time, and I'm going back again on March the 16th, booked it today.
Good stuff, mate. So, that'll come around pretty quick. Nah, really good, mate. Yeah, I was thinking of you because obviously we were on the plane for 3 hours on the tarmac and we got pulled off and we had to stay the night. And myself, Ronnie and Jack were okay. We stayed the night in San Francisco and then got the plane tomorrow. You actually had to go to LA the next day, didn't you, to go home? Oh, he's gone. Okay. All right, we'll get him back. I'm not sure we'll be able to do the quiz tonight, Mike, if he's in his car. I'm not quite sure what the response time will be, but we'll see how we go.
We just added an hour to his record. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he'll
walk
come
over.
back.
Have you noticed? I don't know if you've looked at the amateur records at all on BoxRec recently,
No.
Lynden, but
No.
have you noticed that So back in the day, you know yourself as an amateur. I mean, what was your amateur record, approximately?
So my record.
Yeah.
I had about 100 fights. Probably lost 15 or so, I'd reckon.
So
15,
say you're
16.
85 and 15. Did you have any walkovers in competition? Surely you would have had
Walkovers? No, never had a
walkover
walkover.
win.
No, never had a walkover.
Really?
No, never.
So now we see him prominently. You would see him a lot of Egyptian fighters at major tournaments. They get to the qualifying stage and then they pull out. You will see it at the Olympic Games when they're going to fight Cubans. They just pull out. Traditionally, the walkover wouldn't be considered part of your record. It wouldn't be considered a loss on your record.
So
for example, someone like Lomachenko, we all know he's 396-1 as an amateur. But now people are claiming he's 396-3 because he's got 2 walkover losses.
Is that right? Is that they're actually counting that these days?
So they're trying to they're claiming them. So if you look, say, on BoxRec, you'll see the walkovers there. So to my point, if Tassie's not available for the quiz, it's just a walk.
Oh, hang on. We've lost him again. I don't know.
We lost him again.
I don't know what he's doing there. It might be the fact he's in his car. I'm not sure. But I'm with you, mate. We'll give him the walkover, I reckon. But yeah, it might be a little bit hard because I know if he loses, he'll be blaming that he's in the car. So anyway.
Too funny.
We'll see how he goes. All right. Well, before he comes back on, let's talk about Haney Lomachenko. What were your thoughts? Who won and why?
I'm going to sound like I'm sitting on the fence, but this is just how I seen it on the day. I had it 6 rounds apiece. I had it 114, 114. I thought that Loma was up 6-5 going into the 12th and had all the momentum, and then Haney clearly outboxed him in the 12th, and that swung his way. Now, I think it was maybe the 5th round, I leaned Loma's way, but I could see a case in that round for Haney. And there was a couple other rounds that were similar to that. So 115, 113 either way, I have no problem with it. And I thought if it was going to lean anyway on that kind of thought pattern, I thought it would be on Haney's just because of how effectively he was landing to the body in the earlier rounds. I mean, Loma did nullify his jab, but I thought that Haney was landing a lot of clean jabs. And Loma was just like landing 1, 2, 3 good shots, but just not punctuating it where he was winning a lot of those mid-rounds definitively. But it just shows you how subjective the scoring process is.
Yeah, look, I've done on here, of course. If you haven't watched it, watch your verdict. The latest episode, I did this last weekend. I had it 115, 113 to Lomachenko. But as I said in that, I wouldn't have argued with a draw or even maybe it depends on how you score. I remember I did score at 115, 113 in the venue and 115, 113 watching it. However, I had 6 rounds that I had different from when I watched it live to watch it on YouTube. So I can understand, even though I come back with the same score. I am one of those idiots that scored on the night, scored round 10 to Haney. But watching it back, I thought Lomachenko won it clearly. But and that was the Moretti round where he scored that for Lomachenko for Haney as well, which I don't know how it affected the scores. But look, I did say the other night, mate. I'm sure you'd agree. One of the most highly skilled fight between 2 elite fighters that I reckon I've ever seen, especially live.
It was a beautiful fight to watch. I mean, it wasn't just that Devin Haney couldn't find his range on the jab. Lomachenko nullified it. You know, he took that shot away from him, and Haney adapted by digging to the body, changed his own stance a bit. I haven't seen Haney throw that many left hooks in a fight.
I actually thought, and I did say again in the review, that one of the best fights I've seen, probably the best fight I reckon I've seen Haney fight, because I mean Lomachenko is a legend, but also I thought Lomachenko fought his best fight in probably 4 years as well. So
definitely.
I mean, it was back and forth. They both had their moments. It was just a great fight. But as I said, I must admit I did have it 7 rounds to 5, but so many close rounds. Before we move on there, mate, Tassie, sorry boys, phone is flat. It keeps dying. Now, I'm not sure why his phone is flat when you're coming on the show, although he normally does it from his computer. My apologies. Make it up this next week. No mic, no walkout. No
Walk
Walk
over.
over. Well, so sure, we'll get into that next. So apologies if you're here for the quiz. We won't be able to do it this week, but it is what it is. Yeah, so one last thing before we actually got a couple more things before we go. Crawford Spence, it's been announced for July 29, 1 week after Cambos and Hughes. Do you think it'll happen?
I'll believe it when they're in the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it'll. I believe it'll finally happen now because neither has another option. I think that the TV network's tired of booking Spence in fights that, although they're competitive, aren't Crawford. And I think that Crawford's little kind of trial bout against Avanesian on the BLK Prime completely tanked. So I think he lost a lot of his negotiating power independently too. So, yeah, I think the timing, not that the timing's correct, I think the timing would have been correct 2 years ago. But I think that it's finally time that neither had another viable choice. Hence why they're both coming to the party.
I must admit, mate, I'm a bit nervous because I've contemplated maybe going over for it, but I must admit I'm a little bit apprehensive about whether this fight happens or it gets delayed or whatever. I'm assuming I'm not the only one out there in boxing land that thinks that way.
Yeah.
But look, I hope it does happen. But until it's first we've got to get it officially announced because they've agreed to terms from what I've seen. There's no actual. I know that it's apparently agreed that it's July 29, T-Mobile Arena. But I don't think it's been officially signed. We certainly haven't had an official press conference yet. So maybe we've got to take one step at a time.
Yeah, look, let's hope that they just get within 3-4 weeks of the contest actually happening. So let's pray that neither fighter is injured in the lead up. There's no politicizing. I think once they have that official launch press conference, I think then your confidence in the fight being an actuality will start to build.
Yeah, that's step one, and then we'll get to a month out, and then we'll get to fight week, but it'll be great to go there. And look, T-Mobile Arena is the right place, 20,000 people. I think that's about right. Yeah. I know there was maybe talks they could look at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, but that's 65, 70,000. There's no way they're going to get that amount of people there. And I know, Mike, that they did. I think Eddie Hearn come out this week and said he would only think do 500,000 or 600,000 buys in the States. Do you reckon that's a viable option? I would have thought maybe 900 to 1 million. What do you think?
Yeah, I would think that the 500,000-600,000 is a little bit low. I think that this is a fight that moves the needle, even though it's overdue, especially amongst the urban community in the United States. People connected. You got to look at like urban community, R&B world. There's going to be a massive push on this fight amongst NBA players, amongst all of that subculture. There's going to be a big push, so that's going to play into really, really enhancing to me the buy rate as well. And I think that American fight fans aren't just buying anything anymore, but I think even reflective of like the early numbers that triggered on Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, I think if you give them the right material, they will support the product. And I think that this is the fight. I mean, what other fight really do we have stateside now that moves the needle this much? There's fights that we might feel are better. We might feel, say Tank versus Shakur Stevenson will be a better fight because they're younger and fresher. But in terms of the profile, the build, the support amongst, say, other celebrities that can impact on social media and build the buzz of the fight, get it trending, I think that these two are right up there.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. Let's hope it gets done because what a year. I mean, if this fight happens, obviously Crawford Spence, we've had Davis, Garcia, we've had Lomachenko, Haney. I'm just trying to think of the other. Maybe we'll get
Inoue Fulton coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a ripper year. I'm just got a comment there. Sorry, it's Logan. Why do you think the most impact are you talking about me, Logan? What fight in your career had the most impact on your career and life? That's a very good question. A pretty deep question there, Logan. Hang on, you've got another comment there. Well, there you go. You're from Bendigo. Do you remember me from the gym? You're a good-looking bro. Is that right? Is it you're saying I'm good-looking or you were good-looking? Hey, thanks for tuning in, Logan. Thanks for the comment. What fight in my career? Geez, well, I only had an amateur career, but the most impact in my career. Probably a little bit deep at this time of night, I reckon, Logan. Let me have a think about that. I'll answer that next week. Obviously, Olympics, Commonwealth Games. Actually, I will
Who
say
did
one
you
thing.
beat to qualify for the Olympics?
For the Olympics, I beat Alex Tua, the brother of David Tua,
Yeah,
and
from New Zealand.
he actually got disqualified for hitting me low about 20 times. So, yeah, that was it. But I was just going to say, probably the most impact on my career is probably my life was my very last fight ever. It was the semi-finals at the Commonwealth Games, and I lost to the Canadian who won the gold. And I won't get into all the details, but that for me was it. I just turned 25, so I was probably still pretty much a baby, I suppose, at the time, wasn't I, in this day and age? But yeah, so that impacted me. The way it ended for me and circumstances made me get out of boxing and go into business, get married, and so married 25 years later and been in business for 20 odd years as well. So, yeah, that's probably had the most impact there, mate. So what are you saying there? You're looking good, mate. Terry Walker's saying if that makes it easier. I'm sorry, mate. It's been a long time. I'm pushing 50 at the moment, Logan. So you're going to have to forgive me if I don't remember. But thanks for joining in, mate. Really appreciate it. So, mate, before we go, I want to get a couple of talking points. I was going to get Tassie involved, but it'll just be yourself and me. Now, Eddie Hearn's come out this week and said that Top Rank is finished. Said kaput. No big fights now. I must admit, I laughed it off at the start, but he does make a bit of a point when he says that they haven't really done any, apart from Mahoney Lomachenko, of course, before that, haven't done a massive show for a long time. What are your thoughts?
All right, I'm going to do you a favor now, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do you a favor. So give me 1 second.
All right.
And this will show you how stupid that statement is.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Top rank roster. Tyson Fury, Devin Haney, Artur Beterbiev, Sinisa Estrada, Jason Maloney, Rabisi Ramirez, Josh Taylor, Luis Alberto Lopez, Janabek Alim Hamali, all current world champions. Now let's look at the fighters on their roster that aren't world champions, but that we would consider elite talent. Naoya Inoue, about to become undisputed champion. Teofimo Lopez, Vasil Lomachenko, Shakur Stevenson, Jared Anderson, who's the best young heavyweight coming through. Keyshawn Davis, probably the pick off the American Olympic team. Xander Zayas, considered the next star out of Puerto Rico. Then you go to that next tier. They've got all that next tier covered as well, right? There's a number of other elite prospects coming through. There's about another 30, 40 prospects. Duke Reagan, Olympic medalist. Do I need to continue? Bruce Carrington, one of the best on the US team. Arnold Barbosa, who was recently linked to a fight with Paro before going another direction. What I'm painting here is you're only finished in the sport if you don't have active contracts with elite talent.
Mm.
They've got about 30 of the most elite talents at all different depths and levels imaginable in the sport. So Eddie Hearn's just being Eddie Hearn and talking without substance.
I reckon you've been waiting for someone to ask you that very question, but you've come prepared. What about, though, the point that he made that regardless of the fighters on the roster, what are the big fights that they've made in the last few years, apart from Haney Lomachenko?
Well, look, he's triggered because he's unhappy that Tyson Fury's not coming to the party with AJ or Usyk or whatever it may be. That's the sole trigger point. I mean, what other big fights was there to make? What did he want to see outside of Fury? Who else of the names that I've just mentioned? You know, who else could Josh Taylor fight? Josh Taylor fighting Teofimo is Josh Taylor's already beaten Regis Prograis. Josh Taylor fighting Teofimo arguably is what may be the most exciting fight at 140 right now. So again, look at it. Inoue could have Inoue taken any other fights? The guy unified a weight class and then stepped up and he's taken the biggest and baddest challenge out there. So Eddie Hearn is basing that perspective on one fighter, which is Tyson Fury.
And you're right too. And also we've got to take in consideration the COVID factor as well. That really set everyone back a couple of years, and it took a while to get going. So, and if you look at even Eddie, I mean, he's had the Canelo fights. Triple G wasn't really a big fight compared to the first couple. Bivol really I mean, it was big, but it wasn't massive. So I don't know, but we won't get into the tit for tat. But I just thought it was interesting that he made a point of doing that. But I'm with you. I think, especially from what I saw when I was over there, Top Rank, they put on a really good event, and they've got a good roster of fighters. And I'm sure they'll be around for a while.
I just outlined to you the entire roster.
And
So
probably the best roster in boxing.
What's his contention? Better Bev not fighting Bivol. Bivol's lining up to fight Canelo next. Better Beev's fighting Callum Smith. There's not a more dangerous fight probably at 175 than Callum Smith outside of Bivol for him right now. Like, that's what I'm saying. So his whole perspective is contingent upon Tyson Fury, which we all know, again, it was formerly part of the fabric of the company that controlled Fury's career. So again, I know Tyson has his own complications.
Yeah.
Fury and Usyk not happening isn't necessarily Queensberry Promotions or Top Rank's fault. It's just the reality of what the business is, trying to piece together the higher scale fights, which, as you just outlined with Spence and Crawford, sometimes it takes an eternity for them to come together.
It does. All right, one more for you, mate. The footballer / influencer / YouTuber, whatever you want to call it, tragedy waiting to happen. What do you think?
Think that is this based on Bell Chambers and Mooney on the perspective of something like that, or in general?
Yeah. I think that's probably the highlight of it all. But I suppose it just raises the question. I mean, Mooney's all right, but do you think that these guys? I mean, Bell Chambers have been training for 3 weeks. Do you think at some stage there's something bad going to happen that's going to really blow up?
Lucky he wasn't training for 3 months, because then it could have been much worse. I think that when you're matching novices, and you know this from the amateurs, I think you've got to look at it like they're just raw novice amateurs, and they have no restraint. So you've got to look at, say technically they're both heavyweights in that fight, but that really one guy's a cruiserweight and the other one's a big 120 kilo plus heavyweight. That's the reality of the equation in terms of the frames. I think that's when it can get dangerous. I'm not one of these people that's anti all the influencer thing. I just see it as a fad, and I think it's going to pass. I think that, you know what, like, this is how I perceive it. And again, I've got friends who promote in that space, and they generate fantastic gates at the events and interest. And I wish everybody luck, because they're not taking money off the table of people promoting quote unquote real boxing.
Yeah.
But what I look at is sooner or later, people are going to move on. Like, I look at it like this, right? I'm a huge tennis advocate. I've got no interest in watching Tyson Fury play Deontay Wilder in a tennis match. Right? And I think that sooner or later, it's just going to get to a point that what's a purpose of watching a boxing contest if there isn't legitimacy to it?
Yeah,
in the sense that, elite level of skill. So, I'm just not sure what the future is there. Is it a fad that's going to die out when this generation that are raised on Logan and Jake Paul start to phase out and move on to other interests in their life? Possibly so.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it could get worse. But my thing with that is that I'm with you with the influencers and even the YouTubers and that sort of stuff. But I must admit, I haven't really given it much thought till I watched that fight on the No Limit card, and I thought, geez, these are two big guys with a massive difference. And the way that Mooney got hit, that could have ended really bad. I mean, he could have hit the head on the canvas, and who knows what could have happened. I mean, he got dropped, but I just think, look, it sells the fight a lot more. Got a lot of interest from the AFL community. All the AFL media covered it and all that sort of stuff, and it gave them maybe some more ticket sales and pay-per-views, whatever it might be. But in that particular instance, I must admit, for the first time, I thought, holy shit, that could have ended really bad. And do we really want to see that just for the sake of a few extra bums on seats, a bit of extra attention? At least make sure these guys are maybe a little bit more trained up. I know it's a little bit different with the reality shows fighting each other. It's probably pretty harmless in the end, I suppose. But in this instance here, we got two big guys, raw guys, like you said, that are punching the shit out of each other with not really a lot of defense. Yeah, I don't know. It just sort of worries me. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just getting old.
Well, here's the other thing which we don't do in Australia. And again, I'm probably just... It's probably counterproductive to what our job promoting events is going to be. But in the UK and in stronger commissions in the US, so California, New York, in order to secure a pro license, you have to pass a basic skills challenge.
Okay.
You have to show a certain level of aptitude in sparring. So they'll come and assess your sparring. I would say probably with confidence that both those two gentlemen would have been hard-pressed to pass that aptitude test if it was to the same standard. And it's not to say that they couldn't with a bit more time, but I think that it's just reflective that if it is going to be a pro license bout, which then you're subject to pro rules, which means smaller gloves, heavier impact, then it needs to be a safety consideration.
It's a really good point, because maybe there needs to be some sort of categories for these, because, yeah, you're right. I mean, let's face it, the definition, they're getting a license to fight. So like any license in the world, whether it be driving or gun or whatever it might be, you have to meet certain qualifications. You have to be able to, well, fire a gun properly or drive a car properly. And I think these days, it's almost like, and you know, you've seen the forms, you fill out the form, you pay your registration, you put in your medical, and Shazam, you're a professional fighter. You know, maybe they've got to assess them, and look, I don't want to be too hard on the combat books. They all do a good job, you know, and there's a lot of things they've got to do, but I would like to see them probably be a little bit more, not critical, but a little bit more aware of the fighters they put on, and probably do a little bit more research on them, especially in a situation like this where, look, maybe they could have put 16-ounce gloves on or head guards or whatever it might have been, or whatever, but something, instead of making it a licensed professional fight with a guy that's been fighting or sparring or training 3 weeks, you know, and
yeah, make it an exhibition. I mean, that's how it was back in the day. I remember there was a big build. This generation won't remember this, but I think it was around 1998. There was a big build of a celebrity footy fight, Renee Kink versus Mark Jacko Jackson, and that was, again, bigger gloves and headgear was optional. I think from memory, Kink wore the headgear, Jacko didn't, but I could be wrong on that. Definitely bigger gloves. It was exhibition rules, and it was harmless. Whereas I think what we saw the other night, that was a frightening knockout.
It was, and I just can't see the sense in how the combat board would license someone that's been training for 3 weeks. I don't understand that. So, mate, I don't know how to get around. Maybe there's all boxers have got to have a logbook when they start and put in the I don't know. It's something about when they've started at the gym to when they train. 3 weeks.
I'm telling you, the solution is like the British Boxing Board of Control, that you police the gyms. So you need to send, and it'd be someone like yourself. So you have an ex-fighter, intelligent ex-fighter who has the understanding and comprehension of what base skills are, and doesn't hold someone to the standard that they need to be moving like the Gypsy King, but that at least they can place themselves in positions where they know how to hold, they know how to defend themselves. They're not pulling back with their chin in the air. Because they're the habits that'll get you knocked out. Dropping your hands, chin in the air, you know, not setting on your punches, not moving after you punch. They're all the habits that you could fail someone on and not license them.
That's a really, really good point. And you're right with that. I mean, you watch, as a fighter, I suppose, and yourself that's been around the fight game for so long, you watch that sort of stuff. And my first thing was when either one of them was under attack, they did the natural human reaction of pulling out with the chin in the air. Now, a fighter that's been around a little while or just done a base amount of training will do the opposite. As I always used to tell my guys, if you do the opposite and actually come forward with the chin down and hands up, you know, but these guys are doing this, which means they're open for those big shots, and you see what happened. But that is a brilliant idea, mate. I know it's not your idea; it's the British Board of Boxing's controls sort of thing. But I love it to have someone to go around to the gyms, watch them spar, watch them do pads, watch them do a few bits and pieces, and say, "Look, you're not quite ready," and actually make them earn their license. Don't just, as I said before, you don't you just don't fill out a form and get your driver's license. You just don't fill out a form and get, fishing license might be a bit different, but you know what I mean? Like, fishing's not going to kill you or get you hurt, but something where I know numbers would be a major problem. We don't have the amount of people. Maybe they've got to get them and employ people to go around and just watch these guys spar and give them a bit of an assessment. Say, mate, you're not quite there yet or whatever. I know some of the trainers around will be jumping up and down, but so I think something more has got to be done because I know there's not much we can probably do for some of the international fighters that come in, but the ones that are here in Australia, I just think we need to maybe get the combat board to be a little bit more proactive in just seeing who's actually getting in the ring, because it just, as I said before, it's never really flustered me too much with all those influencers and YouTubers, but now to see those big boys the other night land some pretty big punches, I thought, geez, these are two unskilled guys. One of these guys could have got really, really badly hurt. But anyway, maybe I'm just getting old, mate.
Yeah, not sure, but I do think I do think you're accurate in what you're saying. I think that when we talk about safety, there's further things that come into play there. It's not just policing unskilled novices. It's just making sure that trainers actually hold to the standards of what the sport preaches. So I know a lot of gyms, they're not using the 16-ounce gloves. They're using 14-ounce gloves for sparring.
Yeah.
But how many times you walk into a gym, one guy's got 10s on, another guy's got 14s. One guy's got 16s, the other's got 12s. You've got a raw novice sparring a seasoned pro, and there's no restraint on the seasoned pro.
Yeah.
A guy takes a battering 4 rounds in sparring, the corner should pull him out. They've got too much bravado. They leave him in another 2 rounds. Gets beat up, ends up halfway concussed, scheduled to fight 3 weeks later. No one's there to see any of that unless the coach has a duty of care.
Yeah.
And this is where the boxing authorities need to step up and have their own duty of care to it.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And we've got to get past the whole, she'll be right, toughen up, just get back in there, you'll be right. I know there's all sorts of dramas in football and, well, AFL, rugby, American gridiron, all that sort of stuff with this sort of stuff at the moment. So, but maybe, I know we've got to move on or we'll finish up because we've been talking about this a while, but what do you think about even a star system for fighters where from 1 to 5, so if you're starting... obviously, the elite fighters have 5, the Jason Maloneys of the world and George Camboses, and you've got to start at a 1. And you've got to get that 1 star by being assessed by the combat board or wherever it might be. And then as you progress, you go up to 1, 2. And look, let's face it, most people probably aren't going to get past 2 or 3, but you've got to at least have some sort of rating based on results, based on knockouts, whatever it might be.
Well, that's how Japan is. Japan has that kind of tier, and that's why you see that unless fighters were absolute amateur stars and then they get fast-tracked, fighters have to win at a certain tier in order to advance, fight for a national title, and then beyond that, a regional title. So you'll see in Japan a lot of kids in 4, 5-round fights for their first 6, 7 fights. And that's all because they're in what they call like these rookie tournaments. And then once you qualify and come through those processes, then you're permitted to be match made outside of those tournaments and go beyond. So I think that there's a lot of systems that we could take different elements, but as you said before, the key is having the right personnel. I don't feel any confidence, whether it's New South Wales, Victoria, obviously then we've got the weaker states, say South Australia, West Australia. Queensland's a whole different entity.
Say Tassie. Don't say Tassie.
But I don't think we actually have people in positions of power in these states that really, really know the sport. Like, I mean, intimately know the sport where they would know, for example, okay, Lynden Hosking would have the aptitude and the capabilities to assess talent. You know, and then if you quit from that role in a year or your contract ran out, all right, who do we replace him with? Because these aren't skills. You can't go and seek and advertise for these skills. These are skills that are ingrained with experience and knowledge in the industry. You can develop people that you bring into the system to learn your structures and bring them along. But in terms of knowing how to assess talent, knowing about how to mitigate risks in the gyms and so forth, that only comes with practical experience.
And the one good thing about the fight game, there are plenty of people out there that know about boxing. I know there's plenty that don't, but there are some really good quality people that do know, who I'm sure, you know, with the former fighters, whatever it might be, that would know, that would get around and just assess it, you know. And anyway, but just think in this day and age, you know, with where we're going with all the other sports, that boxing could have a little bit better system. Before we'll let you go, mate, I'm going to bring Logan back in here with a question. He's put us on the spot. A cliche question. Greatest of all time, any era based on overall skill. Mike, so not reputation. Who's the best, most skilled fighter of all time? think that's what he's saying. Greatest of all time, based on skill.
Greatest of all time, Sugar Ray Robinson.
Mm.
I mean, you go and look at the resume. Go and look at the depth of that resume. Even when he was at the absolute end of his career, where everyone talks about him being Shotsky en route to being 174 and 19, which is still an outstanding record. His last 2 years active, where he had a 500 record, he was still beating guys ranked in the top 5, the top 10 in the world at like 42, 43 years of age. And this is when he's like 10 years past prime.
Honorary mention, I'm assuming, would be someone like a Harry Greb.
Harry Greb, absolutely. I don't know on the skill side because we've got such limited footage, but no one has fought, or very few fighters, I should say, no other middleweight, or I can say this with confidence, has fought as many Hall of Famers, International Boxing Hall of Fame fighters as Harry Greb. So Harry Greb absolutely there. But if you're looking at like pure skills, so let's forget the greatest of all time. Let's look at the most skillful in terms of beautiful to watch. I mean, how can you go past Pernell Whitaker?
Yeah, I was just going to say there's Whitaker. I would throw in Floyd Mayweather Jr., throw in Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah. Obviously, there's the oldies like the Willie Pep. Yeah, Willie Pep. So some great boxers out there. So Logan, look, I don't think, well, you just did Sugar Ray Robinson. I think he's the undisputed. But it's like when you rate your top 10 pound for pound ever, I'm not sure whether you could actually rate them 1 to 10. You could just say these are, in my opinion, the 10 best, and you can pretty much have them in a variety of different orders. And that's what's great about the fight game. I don't like when people say, how could you have him at number 6? He's not even in the top 10. Well, you know what I mean. Like, everyone's a little bit different. And I think sometimes it comes down to favourite fighters compared to someone else's favourite. But there's all different variables. And that's why when I do a pound for pound, I try of all time, I try and just have an overall 10, not this is the list. And if you disagree with it, well, you don't know shit about boxing, as they say. So anyway, but Logan, if you want to, what do you say there? Top 5, yeah. So you've asked the right person here, mate, because the guy beside me here is an encyclopedia of the sport. Before we go, Mike, just a quick shout out. I didn't do it before. I apologise. Dara Foley fell short on the weekend too, so a really good effort. He lost to Jack Catterall. So I didn't mention that before. Sorry, guys. It was 99, 88. 98, 89, and 97, 90 for Jack Catterall.
Yeah, very, very brave and resilient effort. Again, two fighters I've worked with previously. When the fight was made, I was very confident that Catterall's just a class above Dara in all areas, but Dara brought his usual intestinal fortitude and left nothing a chance, which that's all you can ask for anyone competing at the highest level in our sport.
Yeah, exactly. So, and well done to Ben Sava as well, the trainer who prepared Dara. So, best of luck to him going forward, whatever's next. So, Mike, apology we didn't get the quiz with Tassie tonight. I know you're ready to go for another.
I'm taking the walkover.
Yeah, the walkover. But, mate, keep us up to date with what's happening with the show. Hopefully we'll see you next week. I'll be back on Monday for Talking Boxing from 7 p.m, so make sure you tune into that. And as I said earlier, make sure you check out the What's Your Verdict, Haney Lomachenko, my overview of the whole fight. And, Mike, we're going to have to get the dream fights happening again soon. When we get a bit more time, we'll let you get maybe past your next show, and we've got to get them going because we've had a lot of requests for them.
Lynden Hosking versus Brett Eckerman 3. Dream fight.
3. I think Brett's had enough of that, mate. Shout out to Brett if you're watching as well. So, great to have you along, mate. And, as I said, we'll keep in touch with what's happening with the show, and we'll get the dream fights happening after your show, and hopefully we'll see you next week. So thanks for jumping on and being on here for so long.
Yeah, appreciated.
Thanks,
Thank you, Lynden.
See you, mate.